Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We are delighted to have one of our partners, DataHaven, joining us. Mitch Brown will be presenting on AP automation is just the start. So when it comes to document management, AP automation is where you should be starting. And as a reminder, we are recording this webinar, and we will post it to our on-demand webinar library for you to review again or share with anyone. And you can find our library under our resources tab on our website at innovia.com. And we encourage you to ask questions during our presentation, so please feel free to type them in the questions box, and we will get them answered during our Q&A time at the end of our session. So now I'm going to turn it over to Mitch to kick off our presentation.
All right. Well, Angie, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present to the Innovia customers on Datahaven's paperless redefined document management solution. It's something that I think is very unique. And as Angie mentioned, what we find is a lot of organizations will start off with implementing a document management solution within the AP team. But really a company can benefit by deploying it throughout an organization. So we're going to be highlighting how Datahaven can assist in both areas today. Just to give you a brief overview of what I'll be covering, I'm going to start off with a brief overview about Datahaven's history and how we got into the dynamic space. We're going to touch on some of the areas that we hear from customers where they see they're wasting time using either a paper-based solution or a document management solution that's not integrated with Dynamics. Then we'll talk about what differentiates Datahaven from other solutions on the marketplace before going into a demo, and that's where we're going to spend the majority of today's time. And then we'll finish up with some ROI and time for Q&A. Just to give everyone a little bit of brief background about Datahaven, the company's been in business for over 25 years, and I like to refer to it as two phases. The first being BD, or before Dynamics. Datahaven developed a document management solution to be embedded in custom ERP and CRM solutions. We worked with a variety of organizations, but over time we saw that the market was shifting, and we looked for a kind of new ERP system to integrate with, and that's how we landed on the dynamic space, and that's what I refer to as AD, or after we integrated with Dynamics. Since then, we've developed a variety of solutions that range from basic document management to workflow solutions to full AP and AR automation, and we're going to be touching on that today. As a goal, our company, or I should say, as a company, our goal is to take organizations from a scenario where everyone's storing documents and naming them in their own manner and have all of that be stored in a consistent way. Now, some of the things that we hear from customers when it comes to the time they spend dealing with documents and emails, there is a lot of time that's spent, and this is what drives AP a lot of times, in entering information, so rekeying vendor invoices. You then have to take that information and file it and organize it in a consistent manner. Those documents are often routed through an approval process, and that's where a lot of time is spent not only routing it, but then following up on the approval, particularly at the end of the month when you're trying to get payments out. Also, and this is the most amount of time, is it comes down to searching for documents. And oftentimes the searching for documents is delayed because not everyone names things the same way, or they may store them in different systems. As you can see, all of these factors add up to a significant amount of time that an organization or an individual wastes searching and dealing with files. At Datahaven, we want to help streamline that. And the way we do that is in a variety of ways. So when thinking of Dynamics, I'd like for organizations to think of it as a universal solution because it can be embedded in the solutions that you use every day, not only Dynamics, but also other solutions such as Teams and Outlook. Datahaven has deep integration. So beyond going into purchasing an AP, Datahaven's folder structure can actually be embedded throughout all departments, everything from, the payables team all the way through warehousing. And at Datahaven, what we want to do is to automate mundane tasks, such as the keying in of vendor invoices. We want to be able to automate that using OCR. And we want to make sure that it's a simple solution. So these are kind of the topics I'm going to dive into a little bit deeper. So when thinking of Datahaven and thinking universal, with Datahaven, rather than storing everything just in a flat folder structure in a fact box, we deploy a virtual folder structure to help everything be organized. This folder structure can actually be embedded in the applications that you use every day. So we're, of course, going to be able to embed it into Business Central. And for those of you that are using Dynamics NAV, we also support that as well. But we can also embed the folder structure in other applications, such as Microsoft CRM or D365 Sales, Salesforce and CRM, if any of you are using that. We can also embed it into Power Apps. This is an area that's really exciting for our team. Also Power Automate, virtual agents. We have an organization that is deploying Datahaven with a virtual agent that'll allow users to request copies of invoices with no human intervention. And of course, an application that we've all started to use quite a bit over the last few years, Microsoft Teams. And what I like with the folder structure being embedded in these applications, it gives users access to the supporting information they need from the platform of their choice. With Datahaven, also think deep integration. So with Datahaven, we want to make sure that every department can benefit from the capabilities a document management solution provides. So with Datahaven, we embed in all departments that you see on your screen. And we can also embed with other applications, whether they be ISV extensions or custom apps that you've developed. Datahaven's folder structure can be embedded in all of those. And I'm very excited because we recently provided an update to Datahaven's baseline folder structure, and that now integrates with over 80 pages within Business Central, and this is out of the box. So Datahaven now supports everything from assembly orders, cash receipts journals. We can attach to jobs ledgers, production orders, transfer orders, just to name a few. And that's all available on AppSource now if you want to trial the software. Next, when thinking of Datahaven, think efficient. And to emphasize that, I've got a few customer quotes that I wanted to highlight. One of which is a customer that's using our OCR solution to automate AP, and they were able to process over 250,000 invoices each month with fewer than 5 FTEs. They were able to cut the number of FTEs that were focusing on this process in half. Those other employees could focus on other things that would help the AP team more better than processing files. But with Datahaven, we also can automate the naming and filing of information. And this is probably one of the biggest advantages that we hear from our customers. Oftentimes within Business Central, when you're storing a file, you may have to save it to your desktop, then rename it before uploading it into Business Central for consistency. With Datahaven, we're going to allow users to mimic that same process using drag and drop. And we're going to ensure that any corporate policies are being followed. And the last one, just some quotes from customers about efficient and simple. With Datahaven, we're going to make all information instantly visible from all relevant areas within Business Central so that users can instantly answer any customer or vendor inquiries that come in. Lastly, we all know that within Dynamics, it maintains very complex relationships amongst customers, vendors, transactions, employees, just to name a few. With Datahaven, we're actually going to maintain all those relationships so that users don't have to. And once again, we do that by simply using a virtual folder structure that we developed that allows users to store a document once, but then have that file be visible in all relevant areas within Business Central. You might be asking yourself, so what? Well, with Datahaven's virtual folder structure, the so what is that we're going to maximize visibility of transactions across the entire system and give users the flexibility to view the files from the platform or UI of their choice. This is going to improve consistency across the entire organization because everything is going to be stored and named in a consistent manner. We're also going to be able to reduce training because, as you'll see in a few moments, a lot of this is done behind the scenes where users are just simply dragging and dropping the information they want and letting Datahaven take care of the rest. And with Datahaven, we know security is utmost important to organizations. And with Datahaven, not only can we provide security across the entire document management system, but we can actually go down to a document level. So if you want to ensure documents such as credit applications, W-9s, or commission reports, only certain people can view those, Datahaven can set security at the document level. Now with that, I'm going to migrate over into our demo platform so you can see Datahaven in action. Now for today's demonstration, I am going to be using Business Central running in the cloud, but Datahaven does also support Business Central running on premise, and we do support Dynamics NAV all the way back to 2009. We're actually doing an implementation for a customer that's running NAV 2015, and they just started that this week. So as versions upgrade with Datahaven, you'll have the comfort in knowing that we're always going to support older versions of Dynamics. Now to begin, the first thing you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen that's different from standard Business Central in this case is we've added a Datahaven fact box to, in this case, the customer list screen. This is where we're going to display folders that relate to the various customers. So as I navigate from one customer to the next, you'll see that the folder structure will update and display the files that pertain, in this case, to a Datum Corporation. With Datahaven, we're going to make sure that everything is stored in a consistent manner. So if I open up the folder structure for this customer, I can go in and see we've got separate folders for agreements, correspondence, miscellaneous documents, tax forms. Here I can see the tax exempt form for this particular customer of ours. And the goal here is to make sure that users are storing things in a consistent manner so that we can find them easily for years to come. You're not going to go to a customer card and have a list of, let's say, 100 files and have to kind of sift through to find the one you want. With Datahaven, what we're trying to do is keep everything organized with our folders. But we also, with what we call deep data linking, want to provide users with the ability to see not only the information that's stored against this customer, but you may want to do some research against an open or posted transaction. So I can actually drill down and go into our posted sales invoices, and we're going to put them in folders based on, in this case, by year and month. Do keep in mind the folder structure that you're seeing here is customizable. So if you just wanted to have posted sales invoices listed and not broken out by year, we can do that. But what I wanted to highlight is the fact that a user can actually view posted sales invoice. If they wanted to view the invoice document, they're able to do that from the customer card without having to navigate to the invoice page directly. This could be a real time saver. So if you're just trying to do a little bit of research and want to see what's on that posted sales invoice, you're able to open that document. If you need to do further research, though, you can right-click on the file and select Launch Link Record. And this is where Datahaven can enhance the navigation experience within Business Central because we're now navigating from the customer card directly to the sales invoice that we're researching. When I go to the The folder structure, you'll see it's changed because Datahaven's aware that we're no longer on a customer card. We're now on a posted sales invoice, and we want to display information that relates to that specific transaction. And we're going to keep everything organized. So when a user is doing research, they know exactly which files were attached to the sales order. So this is where you're going to find your customer PO, order confirmation, the order, the signed order confirmation that came back. We're also going to have the ability to view documents that were attached to the posted sales shipment. So if I'm looking for pick tickets or proof of delivery documents, I know where to find them. And Datahaven's keeping everything organized so I know which files were attached to which part of the transaction. So that's an overview of the folder structure for sales. Next, I want to show you how we get information into the system. And to do that, I've actually created a new sales order within Business Central. And here, let me open this up so you can see. So here we have a new sales order with four items on it. The folder structure on the right-hand side, if I look at posted transactions, you'll see there's actually no information because this transaction obviously hasn't been posted. The only information that I'm going to have is information that was attached to the customer card because we still have that access to those files. But also I can actually, if you choose, review information that's attached to the item card for the various documents. So if I wanted to look at spec sheets or pricing, I can see all that information directly from the sales order simply by typing in a particular item. And we're going to have that for each item that's included on this order, once again, included in an organized manner. And with advanced versions of Datahaven, we can actually display lot-specific files against a sales order. So if you're doing a lot of lot tracking, Datahaven fully supports that as well. So this order was entered into the system based on a PO that we received from our customer. So one of our customers sent in an order, they got the PO attached. And if you look at the body of the email, you can say it just says, thank you for the proposal. And if you look at the PDF attachment, it's just a bunch of numbers. So if I save this, it's not going to be easily identifiable to users in the future that this is the customer PO, because most of the time when you use Business Central, it's actually just going to take the name of the email or the name of the PDF. But if I drag and drop using Datahaven, I'm actually going to be presented, hold on one second. It's going to prompt the user to identify what they're attaching. Now, this is what we call our subtype menu, and it's used to maintain file naming consistency. In our demo environment, we have 4 subtype examples, but you could have as few or many as you want, and the subtypes that are offered can change based on your needs. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this as a customer PO. And when the folder structure updates, you'll actually see that that customer PO email has been, or I should say the email has been renamed when it was attached and labeled as a customer PO. And I'm going to go ahead and show you that process again, taking over or dragging and dropping the PDF to show one additional feature. And then this time I'm actually going to select sales order support. And I wanted to do that to show you that Datahaven also has the ability where if somebody wanted to put in a little extra information into the file name, they'd be able to do that. As you can see, I've entered extra data of test. Now, when it updates, you'll see that we've stored that file and we put the test in front of it. So there are a lot of capabilities in the way Datahaven can archive information, but at its core, we're going to make sure that everything is named and stored consistently. Now, once we receive the customer PO, a lot of accounts, next process is we want to send out a order confirmation. DataHaven has the ability to what we call render a copy of the PO, which is going to take a snapshot of the Business Central order at this given time, and we've created a PDF of that. So I've actually attached a PDF of this purchase or this sales order. And now what I want to do is I'm actually going to send out this order confirmation, and I want to attach a copy of the customer PO when sending it. So I'm going to enter what we call tagging mode. And when I go into tagging mode, it's going to allow me to select any of the files that have been attached using DataHaven and email those out as part of a, in this case, order confirmation. We pulled the email address from Business Central so you can see it's going to Mitch Brown. And in this case, I want to show you what it looks like. So it's going to be coming from my email address as well. Here we've got the sales order confirmation as well as the customer PO that I attached. These are all combined into a single email. If I wanted to, I also have the ability to attach other files, but I'm going to go ahead and send this out. And with DataHaven, you do have the ability to also, when files are being sent out, we can also automatically archive a copy of that email. So you get not only the fact that an email was sent, but also what was included in the body of the email as well. So let me go back into our email just so you can see what that looks like. So here's a copy of the email that we sent to our customer. We've got the order confirmation document that DataHaven attached, which is the Business Central report. And then we also, in this case, attached a copy of the customer PO. And this is a template that can also be automatically generated. So if you wanted to include a copy of a customer PO when sending an order confirmation, automatically DataHaven can be configured to do that. Now, all of these documents will flow through and follow any posting routines. So all of those documents will flow through and be visible on the posted sales invoice. Before I switch over to the AP side, I did just want to highlight a couple of other pages that we hear from customers often that they want to attach DataHaven to. With DataHaven, we do fully support fixed assets. So if you have supporting documentation that you want to attach to a fixed asset, DataHaven supports that, and we can also link to any relevant purchase orders that pertain to that fixed asset. Same with service orders. Another one that we get asked about quite a bit is our support for jobs. And once again, DataHaven does fully support integrating with jobs in Business Central. And we can actually present information that relates to the job and also view any sales transactions that relate to the job as well. So I can see all supporting information from one screen without having to navigate back and forth between the invoices and the job itself. And we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from our customers regarding that integration. Now, I want to switch over and go into DataHaven's workflow capabilities and how it can streamline the processing of vendor invoices, both PO-based and non-PO-based. And the way that process starts is it starts off with DataHaven's workflow engine, where invoices will come into kind of a mailroom queue. They can either be automatically split or a user can split them using a visual splitter tool that we have. From there, they go into our OCR automation queue. They start off in pending OCR and will then be moved into OCR processing. For today's demonstration, I've actually put together 4 examples, 3 PO-based invoices and 1 non-PO-based invoice. Now, there's a lot of information on the screen right now, and this is a vendor invoice that came in. Datahaven's OCR engine read the invoice and was able to match it up to a purchase order within Business Central. At the very center of your screen towards the bottom, you can see the PO match analysis. This invoice appears to be a full match against the purchase order within Business Central. One nice thing with Datahaven, we can mark this invoice, or we can mark this invoice once it gets processed to automatically post the purchase order within Business Central. In this example, I also like to highlight this is a partial invoice against the PO. So if you do have purchase orders where you're receiving partial shipments and invoices, Datahaven fully supports that. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this, and that's ideally with those perfect three-way matches. What most organizations will do is they will turn turn on an automatic processing of those documents within Datahaven so that the AP team is really just working with exceptions. Now, the second example I have is an example of a common exception that we hear from customers, and that's where the PO exists but has not been received. So it needs to be received before any further analysis can be done. With Datahaven, we're going to allow the AP processor to still submit this invoice. It will go into an awaiting receipts workflow, and that workflow will monitor receipts within Business Central. And once these goods have been received, it'll route the invoice back through OCR. At that point, it should be a perfect three-way match, and then it will process it automatically. The next example I have is another common exception that we see, and that's where the invoice arrives with a freight charge on it that was not on the PO. There are a couple options as to how this can be processed. Number one, we could submit this into a workflow where someone would need to approve the freight charge. The other option, and this is one used by most of our clients, is using Datahaven's ability to add the freight charge to the PO directly from Datahaven's OCR engine. So as you can see here, we've got an add line to PO. I'm going to select that, and we're going to look up the charge account we want to assign this to, and I'm going to put this as a miscellaneous freight charge. And it's one, the freight was 1058, as you can see here on the screen. And when I select add line, what Datahaven's going to do is we're actually going to write back to Business Central and add this freight charge to the purchase order. Once that is done, you'll see behind the screen that Datahaven will update because we now know that there's a freight charge on the purchase order. We now have a perfect three-way match, and we can process this invoice. This could be a real time saver for a user because they're able to handle everything directly from this screen. We do, though, have tolerances in the system so that a user cannot add a $500 freight charge to a $10 item. And those tolerances can be set by an organization. So whatever your tolerances are, we can apply those to the various invoice processes that you have. The last example I have today is a non-PO-based invoice. And I'm going to scroll down where Datahaven has not only pulled over all of the header information, we've also extracted the line level detail. When we're looking at the line level detail, you can see that one of the fields is highlighted in yellow and it has a 0 in red. That's because that specific character did not reach a level of confidence threshold that's within Datahaven's OCR engine. So it would want the user just to verify that. When I click on that field, it will highlight where it is within the invoice, as you can see over on the left-hand side of your screen. And then we also zoom in right above this area. So there's a lot of capabilities when it comes to Datahaven as far as being able to streamline the process of getting this information. Also, we're going to allow users to either code at a header level, so we could put in a GL code for the entire invoice, or I have the ability to code each individual line item. And I can look up the GL codes, and if I know the code number, I can search by code number, or if I want to search by name, I can go in and start typing office supplies, for example, select that code, and it will update the field. Datahaven allows users to show any error messages or check for duplicates. If a user just decides to submit and there is a duplicate within Business Central, they will actually be notified. Datahaven will give them an error message and let them know that that particular invoice has already been processed. So I'm actually going to go ahead and we'll finish this batch. And I'm going to force the export process, just so we can get that to happen in the background. Normally the export process would happen automatically and there would be nothing that the user would need to do. I just want to make sure that this gets fully exported just so the documents appear within Business Central when we go back into it. That should happen in just 1 second. Let's actually go over to Business Central. Now, after the documents have gone out of OCR processing, they will actually go into the appropriate queue. So a PO mismatch queue, this would be where we would have any invoices that have a freight or tax charge or maybe a line amount didn't match up that needs any further review. They would actually go into this queue for processing. And this is a great way to make sure that any exceptions can be handled quickly so that you can take advantage of early payment discounts. Awaiting receipts, that's where you can see the invoice that we just processed at the very bottom. And we're just waiting for the goods to be received. As soon as these are received, we'll actually route this back through workflow. And at that point, it should be a perfect three-way match. The invoice that was a perfect match, we actually went ahead and posted that PO and created a posted purchase invoice within Business Central. And for the non-PO, we actually took that and routed it into a approval process. So at the very bottom, you can see an invoice was created, and the approval process can automatically be started, or for today's demonstration, I want to show you how easily it is to manually route an invoice through an approval process. And I'm going to select 2 approvers, and we're going to go and route that for approval. And when we route that for approval, it'll actually remove it from that queue. And let's go back into Business Central and go to our purchase invoices. So here you can see we've got an example of an invoice that was created. We've got all of the line level detail, and we've got the file that's been attached. This is one that's actually I wanted to show first, that it went through the approval process and now it's been ready to post. I'm actually going to go into the one that I just created. And unfortunately, I apologize. It looks like when I set that up, I had it just create the invoice header. In a real world scenario, you could have it set up where it would pull over the line level detail, but let me show you the invoice approval process. When I highlight this document, it'll indicate that it's currently in Mitch Brown's queue for approval. Now, I can approve this directly from Business Central using the approve or reject buttons that you see in the ribbon, or if you have non-Dynamics users, they would actually be able to approve directly from within, Outlook. So Datahaven has a feature which is called Easy Approval. And what Easy Approval does is when and invoices assigned to a user for approval, we'll send out an email. The email will have a copy of the invoice attached, and in this case, you can see kind of a brief overview of the history towards the bottom. If I open up the PDF attachment, you'll see there, that's where we've got the invoice that we just processed. If I go back into email, when I'm ready, I would simply just reply to this email with approve or reject. For today, I'm going to mark it to approve, so we'll have it go to the next stage in the approval process. And once that's approved, if I go back into Business Central and refresh and highlight the document, give it a moment. You can see now, and it may be hard to see, but it's indicating that this invoice is now in Brad's queue for approval. Once again, I have the ability as Brad to be able to highlight or approve or reject it from this screen, but DataHaven has also recently released a workflow portal where users can actually log into the portal. They would have a personalized queue. In this case, I'll go into Brad's queue, and you can see the invoice that was created and assigned to him is the most recent one at the bottom. I can open that invoice up, review the information. If I wanted to annotate the file and type in some text such as, please pay ASAP. I've entered that. Now you can see we've got that note on the document. When I approve it, it'll actually be, the approval process will be completed. We'll go back into Business Central. Now you can see at the bottom, it's currently in the ready to post queue. But I wanted to highlight DataHaven's audit trail before we finish off in a payment journal. So with this invoice that's come in, we've routed it through an approval process that included both Business Central and non-Business Central users using our easy approval process. And when you look, we now have a complete history where I can see that the document was created using OCR. It was routed to Mitch Brown for approval. Mitch approved it. It then was routed to Brad for approval. It even indicates that Brad annotated the document before finishing the approval process. So with DataHaven, not only are we maintaining the documents in an organized fashion, we're also keeping a complete audit trail for the files. And to kind of summarize things, I'm going to go to a payment journal because, as I mentioned in the beginning, with DataHaven, a lot of time is wasted with organizations, or they find it challenging to be keen in all the information and then having to name and store those files in a consistent manner, routing them through an approval process that was taking 26 hours a week. With DataHaven, we can streamline that. And I think 12 of those hours were dedicated to being able to find files when trying to do research on, let's say, a payment. Well, DataHaven, we're going to give users access to all the information they need directly from any area within Business Central. In this example, if I'm reviewing a payment journal before posting, I can go in and see all the supporting documentation for this particular vendor payment directly from this screen. I can actually review the various invoices. And as I navigate between vendors, the folder structure is going to update, and it's going to display the invoices for that particular, in this case, vendor. And when highlighting over the document, not only is DataHaven including the Business Central purchase invoice number, we also have the vendor's invoice number. So in this case, it's the vendor invoice number 107207, whereas it's our posted purchase invoice number 108207. And both of those fields are searchable. So if you have a vendor calling up and all they have is their invoice number, you can do a search within Datahaven using our search portal and be able to find the supporting document. And with Datahaven's workflow, another nice feature that a lot of our accounts use is a workflow that will warn a user when they're trying to post for example, in this case, a journal entry. It'll let them know that not all of the entries on this payment journal have a vendor invoice associated with them. As you can see here, it's displayed a warning that invoice 108257 does not have a vendor invoice associated to it. Do you want to continue? So it's a nice kind of spot check to make sure that people are aware that items are not meeting corporate policy when trying to post, and then they can take the relevant action. Now, I hope you found that presentation beneficial, and it's really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Datahaven. Datahaven actually has over 450 document-centric features. So we have companies covered, whether they're just looking for an AP solution or if they're looking for a solution that they want to deploy throughout their organization, everything from AR to fixed assets to lot tracking to jobs, as I mentioned a few times. Now, in terms of reasons to choose Datahaven, I always like to put up some quotes from our customers. Datahaven, as I mentioned, has been in business for over 25 years, and since the company's inception, we have been developing document management, workflow, and AP and AR automation solutions specifically for ERP customers. With our solutions, though, we have extended them to be utilized in the applications that you use every day. So if you're using D365 or CRM, we can integrate our folder structures into those applications to make sure that you're maximizing the return on the investment that you make in Datahaven by enabling it to be used with all the applications that you use. Our team is based in North America, so if you do have any questions or need help with the implementation, our team is available. We're based in Virginia Beach. And also, if you, in the event that you have a support need, we can also answer those for you very quickly as well. In terms of next steps, discuss the benefits of document management with your Innovia account manager, or feel free to reach out to a member of the Datahaven sales team. I'm happy to arrange a personalized one-on-one demonstration. We know that every organization is different when it comes to their document management needs, and we're happy to have a conversation to offer suggestions on what would work best for you. I'm also very happy to announce that we now have a trial on AppSource for any of you that are using Business Central SaaS. You can download the trial from AppSource. I've got a QR code, or you can just search Datahaven 365 in AppSource. The trial does have our baseline folder structure on over 80 pages, as I mentioned. When reviewing the folder structure, I do like to remind people that it is customizable. So if you would like to see different folders or file names, that is something that we can easily accomplish. And with that, I want to thank everyone for attending today's session. And let me just go in and see if there were any questions. But yeah, I just want to thank everyone for attending today's session, and I put my contact information on the screen.
Thank you, Mitch. I don't see any questions yet, but if anybody has any, now is the time to get those in so we can get them addressed to Mitch. One thing I wanted to ask Mitch that I was hearing is, do you run into any common roadblocks from customers who are in the process of, setting up everything?
I would say if I'm understanding the question, like when we're doing the initial part or phase of the implementation, any potential roadblocks that might delay the implementation. The only roadblock that I've come across from time to time is when an organization has the entire department trying to make decisions rather than having a few users with decision authority to kind of determine how the application is going to be deployed. Because a lot of times there's the adage of too many cooks in the kitchen. Everyone's trying to add all the features they would like, whether or not they would benefit the company. So we like to work with a couple of, assigned users who are going to making decisions for the group on what's best for the organization as a whole. And that's an area where our team can really help an organization as part of that process, because as I mentioned, we've got over 25 years experience within the document management space, and a lot of our employees have been here for over 10 years. So they know the, let's say, AP and AR process inside out and what works best for organizations. So our team can really help you through that process.
That's exactly where I was getting at. Thank you. All right, well, I think that is all. So I just want to thank everyone for attending today, or if you're watching on demand, we thank you for taking the time out to join us. And thank you, Mitch, for the presentation.
Oh, thank you, Angie.
And for more of our upcoming events, check out innovia.com/events. And we also have training workshops, and that's on our training workshop page, innovia.com/workshops. So we have a variety of workshops that fit your role. So check the ones out that are right for you and your team and register or request. If you haven't heard our latest Innovia Conversation podcast, now's the time to check that out at innovia.com/podcast. You can browse our selection and subscribe so you'll get notified when those new episodes air. And don't forget to check out our conference page, innovia.com/conferences. Innovia will be attending Dynamics Con live in San Antonio, Texas, coming up in September. So you can find out more about that and register for the conference. And there is a discount code on there too. So innovia.com/conferences. All right, well, we thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Mitch, for the presentation, and we look forward to seeing you soon on another Innovia webinar. Take care, everyone. Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you.